want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day, my book, The Mirror of Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you. Life just improved exponentially because you have tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative to go get an energy that moves you to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, you get the mindset, the method, the podcast, the philosophy, the book known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Today's topic is we are discussing the deadly disease of I can't. C-A-N''T. I can't. This is a deadly disease I want to hope to cure you from or offer you an immunization, a vaccine of sorts against this disease today. Many people hypnotize themselves into nothingness in life with their habit of whether speaking, which is the more egregious form, or even thinking, which is just as deadly, thinking I can't whenever presented with a challenge. And often not me, but people think this way in response to challenges that they have never even attempted to confront in their past. They've never even attempted to confront a certain challenge, but they decide that they can't handle it. They can't do anything about it. I can't help it. I can't change it. I can't do anything. I can't give you a better answer than what I'm giving you already. You ever be on the phone with a customer service person and they start telling you all the things that they can't do? I'm like, all right, when's the service part start? All you telling me is what you can't do. I could have got this information without ever talking to you on the phone. But many of us, I'm talking about the way that we talk to ourselves, not the way someone else talks to us, is that we develop this habit. Because most people, I heard someone say that human beings rarely do things once. So when you hear someone using this I can't incantation of things that talk in response to a challenge, in response to a question, in response to just some circumstance or situation that they are facing, or maybe they have been facing, often they're saying that the things they never even tried to deal with before, but they just decided that they can't do anything about it. And I can is not only a disease that will do something to you, it also spreads quickly from one area of life to another. So it's contagious within the self. In other words, if you have a whole lot of I can'ts when it comes to taking care of your business or doing what you need to do at work, your I can'ts will spread to your fitness. They'll spread to your relationships. They'll spread to your finances. They'll spread to your just taking care of your everyday adult responsibilities. I can't spreads all over your life. Once you get comfortable using it in one area of life, it is that much more comfortable to use in other areas of life. I can't lends itself to other areas of your life what's the word I'm looking for here? The word is just escaping me. Very generously. That's the word I'm looking for. And soon, if you use I can't enough, soon you'll find yourself that you can't do anything. And today's goal is to help relieve you of this disease or, provide you a vaccine so it never happens. Point number one. Today's topic again is I can't, a deadly disease. Can't is like never. And the saying is never say never, right? So we're not going to say can't. That is a good one right there. Maybe I'll phrase out that one and get credit for it. But these closed declarations like I can't or never, they turn your mind off. They deactivate your thinking mechanism. They assume an impossibility of something. I can't means it's not possible for me to fill in the blank. Whatever you're saying you can't do. It assumes an impossibility. And it doesn't even give your mind or your body or your spirit or anything a chance to figure something out. If you say I can't, then you're not even challenging yourself to try to do something. You just say I can't. I'm not going to try, or I'm not going to try anymore. I'm not going to think about this. I'm not going to consider any possibilities. I'm not going to consider any angles. Why? Because I can't. You already decided that you can't. That's pretty much it. I can't assumes an impossibility, doesn't give you a chance to figure things out. But understand, if you say something like, for example, I can't afford it. This is a common I can't. I can't afford it. Well, money can be made, spent, lost, or gained very quickly. I think all of us have experienced that at different levels, at different times of our lives, probably more than once. So how are you so sure that you can? Another one is I can't do it. People just decide that they can't do something. But often, as I already told you, people decide they can't do something they haven't even tried before. How do you know you can't do something you never tried before? Don't ever use the phrase you can't until you have at least tried. You have to at least try before you start throwing around I can't. And at the same time, even if you have tried, maybe you can't do something today, but what about in the future? If you were to keep trying, if you were to keep working on it, or someone says something like, I can't help it. This is another one that people use. I can't help it. And I'm not saying if someone says this I'm not saying people use I can't in a tongue-in-cheek way. I'm saying people say I can't in a way that they really are defending their inaction. They're defending their lack of results. They're defending their lack of action bias by saying I can't. Or I can't help it means this situation is just what it is. I'm somehow involved in it, but there's nothing I can do to change it. I am completely powerless when it comes to changing this situation. Now, I don't think any human being likes to feel like they have no power. Nobody likes to feel like they can't do anything. Nobody wants to feel like a situation has more power over them than they have over a situation. But when you say I can't help it, that is essentially what you are admitting. That's what you're incanting. You're reminding yourself that there's nothing I can do about this situation. The situation has more power and control over me than I have over the situation. Now, is that what you want? I don't think that's what most of us want. But whenever you use these phrases, again, because they're habitual, the reason I'm pointing these out and I'm taking time on this one is because these are habitual. A lot of what we say and a lot of what we think is unconscious and habitual. We just say these things. We all have certain patterns of speech. We have certain patterns of thought, and they usually are reflected in each other. The things we say are reflected in our thoughts. The things we think are reflected in our speech. So I'm pointing these things out because the only way we can change habits that are unconscious and that are happening consistently is first we must become conscious of them. We got to be aware that we're doing it. Any of you has ever had a habit that someone pointed out to you, at least someone who you care about, maybe someone who you hate, pointed out a habit of yours, and all of a sudden what happens when someone points out one of your habits that you had never even thought of? What happens? All of a sudden you become conscious of that habit. All of a sudden you're thinking about it. Now, the next time you do it, you're consciously thinking about the fact that you did it. And this often works to extinguish habits. Just when we become aware of a habit, it often is all we need to extinguish and get rid of that habit, because now we're consciously thinking about it and we just stop doing it. And it doesn't have to be a bad habit. It just can be a habit of something that we always did. But now that we're conscious of it, we're not doing it unconsciously. All of a sudden it goes away because we brought it to our consciousness. So I'm bringing up these I can't incantations that we use. An incantation is something that you say to yourself over and over and over again to the point that you just absolutely accept it and believe it, even though it may not be based in truth. That's what an incantation is. And when you incant, I can't, all you're doing is you're saying every time that you say it habitually, as I talked about, unconsciously, as we talked about, it becomes more and more of a reality in your life. Just for you, not for anybody else, just for you. Point number 2. Today's topic is I can't. We're getting rid of the deadly disease of I can't. Understand that people who come into power in life are always open to possibility. If you want to be a person of power, a person of leadership, a person of action, a person of productivity, a person of producing results, you must become an individual who is always open to possibility. You're always looking around. You're always at least available to see what could be worked out. What can we make happen here? Maybe nothing, but you're open to it. That's all I'm saying. Open to it. Doesn't mean you can do anything. Doesn't mean you will try everything. It just means you're open-minded to it. And it doesn't mean that everything that you try or do is going to succeed. And it doesn't mean that everything that you execute on will always work. It doesn't mean every result you produce will be the one that you wanted. But the person of power, the person of leadership is always open to possibilities of trying things. Open to the possibilities of looking at something from a different angle, doing things in a new way, considering a new idea. That's what people of power do. Why? Because they understand inherently, when I'm helping you understand consciously, that the world is always changing. The ground is always shifting under our feet, even if we don't feel it. Therefore, to be a person of power, you must always be willing to shift with the ground that will always be moving. It's guaranteed the ground will always move under our feet. So if you're not willing to continue to move mentally, to shift and stay open mentally to the shifts that will come about in all of our lives, then the ground is going to move from under you. It's like the rug being pulled from under you. You're going to find yourself on your ass or on your face simply because You weren't willing to move. You were not open to the possibility that the ground could move from under you. But I'm telling you, it is inevitable that the ground will move from under you. You will not become powerful in life if you are closing yourself off from possibility by incanting what you can't do. Ideas, you know where they come from? They come from the openness to the possibility that things could become real. If you ever wonder how I'll come up with a new topic on the show every single day, and we haven't done any encore episodes. In other words, I haven't taken any episode of the show and rerun that episode because I wanted everyone to hear it again. Anything, if you missed episode number 16, you got to go into the game group and listen to episode 16. I'm not going to rerun it as I just wanted people to hear this. I'm just not going to do that. I can come up with a new idea every single day. That's just a skill that I have, that I've developed. I'm telling you that to tell you this, that the ideas of coming up with these topics, it comes from the openness, the mental openness that I have to the possibility of something becoming real. Sometimes I have an idea for an episode and I write it down, I start working on it, fleshing it out, and I'm like, no, this idea is not going to work. Most of the time that doesn't happen, but let's say 1% of the time that happens. But I'm open to the possibility, so I can come up with an idea that doesn't seem like there may be much flesh to it, but then once I start fleshing it out, all of a sudden it becomes a 25-minute episode. You never know. But I stay open to what could be, and that's the way that I can continue to deliver to you on a consistent basis. But any ideas that you're going to have in life, and they don't have to be for making a podcast. It can be for anything: writing a book, getting a job, starting a business, coming up with some new moves for playing basketball, getting on a soccer team. Ideas come from openness. If your mind is closed, if your mind is all on the I can't, that's not going to work, won't do that, this doesn't have any legs, that's not a possibility, then you have a closed mind. And understand that this disease of I can't, as I already told you, it spreads to all areas of your mind. If you are willing to be the I can't person in one area of your life, you're probably not going to be this wide open-minded individual in another area of your life. It doesn't work like that. The mind has to be on one program. So a closed mind is a closed-minded individual. You're closed-minded in one area, you're probably closed-minded in a lot of areas. If you're open-minded in one area, you will be open-minded in other areas. And you can use these to counteract each other. So if you are a closed-minded person in many areas of life and someone is able to get you to open your mind in one particular area, you can utilize that momentum of openness in that one area and get it to spread to other areas of your life. But you have to do this consciously. It's not going to happen on its own most of the time. Point number 3. Today's topic is I can't. We're getting rid of or vaccinating you against this deadly disease of I can't. So I want to give you your new phraseologies. These are new phrases you're going to use in place of when you used to say I can't. Because as I told you, habits are unconscious. There are things we're doing over and over again. We're not aware of the fact that we're doing them. But the way to extinguish and or change a habit is to become conscious of it. You have to catch yourself in the act of utilizing one of these habits of speech or habits of thought that says I can't. So when you catch yourself doing it, you're going to replace those statements with statements like the following. How could I? Instead of saying I can't do this, ask yourself this question. How could I do this? I can't lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Instead of saying that, ask yourself, how could I lose 30 pounds in 30 days if I absolutely had to? If there's $1 million on the line for me to do it, how could I do it? Instead of saying I can't do this or we can't get this to work the right way, ask yourself, how could I make this work? If I absolutely had to make it work, how could I do it? How would I do it if I was going to do it? How could I do this thing? Instead of saying I can't do it, how could I do it? If you can't solve a situation, or at least you think you can't, how could I solve this situation? If I was the only one left to make this work, how could I do it? Instead of I can't afford it, how could I afford it? This phrase, how could I, how would I, these are not magic wands. Are these phrases that I'm giving you here? They're not going to give you skills that you don't possess. They're not going to provide you with resources that you don't have, that you haven't invested in having. But what these phrases do is they give your mind a job to do. And that's the most important thing. You need to always be giving your mind work to do. Your mind is your most dutiful servant. It's the best personal assistant that will ever work for you. As long as you give it a job to do, it will continually work. It doesn't need a day off. It does not need vacation time. It does not need a lunch break. It doesn't need a 15-minute cigarette break outside. Your mind will always work as long as you give it something to do. You give it nothing to do and it's going to do nothing. If you tell yourself that you can't, you're telling your mind to take the day off. It doesn't need a day off. If you ask yourself, how could I make this work, afford this, solve the situation, do this, afford it? If you ask yourself that question, you're giving your mind work to do. Now, again, while it's not a magic wand, it's not going to immediately make the results that you want appear. It will get you to thinking about how you can do something instead of deactivating and giving your mind a day off with disempowering statements that say there's no point in thinking about it. Words matter, ladies and gentlemen, especially those that you say to yourself. As I've said before, borrowing from the late, great Zig Ziglar, what I say to you is not nearly as important, does not have nearly the impact on your mind, your thoughts, your actions, your results in life as what you say to you. So your new phrase is, how could I? Next time you catch yourself thinking I can't or saying I can't, change it to how could I? Now, it doesn't mean you're going to come up with a great idea. Doesn't mean that you will change the results or your outcomes, but it will start opening your mind to the possibilities. How about I just consider that this could possibly work? How about that? Are you open to that idea? Are you open to that possibility? If you're not, then it's impossible for you to ever get to a position of power, to get to a position of leadership in life. If you are open to it, then you are still eligible. So let's recap today's topic, which is getting rid of the deadly disease of I can't. Many of us hypnotize ourselves into nothingness with this habit of thinking I can't whenever we're presented with a challenge, often to challenges which we have never attempted to confront before. And I can't is not only a disease of one area of life, it spreads like a cancer to other areas of your life. The goal of this episode is to cure you of this disease or offer you a vaccination if you never had it before. Point number one, I can't is like never. The saying is, never say never, right? The reason why people say never is because it blocks off any possibilities. It closes everything down. These closed declarations, such as I can't or never, they turn your mind off. They tell your mind to take the day off and do nothing. They assume an impossibility and don't even give you a chance to figure something out. All right, so maybe you can't do something today. Maybe you can't afford that thing right now, but what about possibility? Are you keeping your mind open to the possibility that circumstances could change? And as soon as you say I can't, you're no longer looking for a circumstance that can make that thing work. Point number two, people coming to power in life are always open to possibility. It doesn't mean that they always succeed, and it doesn't mean everything they do always works. It doesn't mean every idea is good, but they stay open to possibilities. You will not become powerful in life if you are closing yourself off from possibility by incanting what you can't do. Ideas come from openness. They come from open minds that are open to the possibility of something happening. Even if it fails to make something happen, you're at least open to the possibility that it could. Point number three, your new phrase is how could I? Everywhere where you would say I can't, ask yourself, how could I? And this gives you options. This opens your mind. It gets you to thinking. It gets you to seeking. It gets you to looking for. If you're not seeking, if you're not looking for, if you're not thinking, if you're not considering, if you're not open, then it's impossible for you to find. It's impossible for you to enact change. It is impossible for you to initiate initiative. It's impossible if you are not open to it. But if you keep your mind open by asking, how could I? How would I? Now your mind has to go to work. And understand, putting your mind to work is a great thing to do. Your mind needs action. Your brain, as they say, the saying is not the saying, but the science says the brain takes up some 20 or 25% of the body's oxygen. So if you're giving all of that oxygen and all of that blood and all those resources to your brain, you might as well give it some job to do. You might as well give it some work, all right, because you got to pay it anyway. So you might as well get your money's worth out of it. You were paying an employee, but they weren't doing any work at all. You probably eventually fire that employee, cut them off and get rid of them. Well, you probably don't want to do that to your head. Probably don't want to do that from the neck up. All right, so you might as well give it some work since it's going to be sitting there on top of your shoulders anyway. When you give your mind a job to do, thinking about how you can, instead of deactivating yourself with disempowering statements, then you'll start opening yourself up to more possibilities. When you're open to possibilities, more things can happen to and for you. Words matter, ladies and gentlemen, especially those which you say to yourself, which are infinitely more important than those which I or anyone else says to you. Now, to get your mind in that right place and keep it in that right place, I suggest you read my Bulletproof Bundle. Those are my 4 best books on mindset, on discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative. The same principles we talk about here, my 4 best books in them. You get them all in one bundle. It's called the Bulletproof Bundle. You can get it by going to workonmygame.com/BB for the Bulletproof Bundle. That's workonmygame.com/BB for the Bulletproof Bundle. Work on your game. Dre all day.